You're welcome to Math Easy Peasy, and in today's class, we shall be analyzing or looking at profit and loss, finding profit and loss. We all know that the reward for doing business is profit, while the cost of doing business is loss. As a way of definition, what is profit? Profit is the total income, that is money one earns by working or selling products, minus expenditure, that's money one spends. There is profit or gain when selling price is more than the cost price. So when the selling price is bigger than the cost price, the trader is said to have made a profit. But the reverse is the case. When the selling price is smaller than the cost price, we say the trader has incurred loss. So in this class today, we shall be finding profit and loss. Let's go straight to our first question for today. So as I said earlier, loss is the sum of expenditure minus total income. There is loss when the cost price is more than the selling price. Let's look at our first question for today. In our first question, my mother bought 3 dozen tin of milk at £2 per dozen and sold them all at 20 pence per tin. How much profit did she make? In this case, we are asked to look for profit. It's a direct question. But the first thing we must look for is to determine the total cost of the 3 dozen of milk. A dozen costs £2. So we're going to look for the cost of 3 dozens. Remember, 1 dozen is made up of 12 items. So in this case, the 3 dozens will be made up of 36 tin of milk. And each tin of milk was sold for 20 pence per tin. That means the tin of milk was sold for 20 pence. Now, how much profit did she make? So we are also going to determine the selling price for the 3 dozens of milk, which is equal to 36 what? Tins of what? Milk. Because they sold it by the tins, not by dozen. Cost price for 1 dozen is equal to £2. Therefore, cost price for 3 dozens will be equal to £2 times 3, which is equal to what? £6. Equal to £6. Now the next step is to look for the selling price. Selling price which is the same thing as SP for 1 tin is equal to 20 pence. Therefore, the selling price for 3 dozen is 36 tins. For 36 tins at 20 pence each will be equal to 36 times 20 pence, which will give us 720 pence. Now, we have gotten the cost price and the selling price of the dozens of milk. So, our next step is to look at the cost price and the selling price. The cost price, as we can see on the board, is £6. That is the cost what? Price of our 3 dozens of milk. Now the selling price for the 3 dozens of milk, which is actually 36 tins, is 720 pence. Now they are not in the same unit, so the first thing we must do is to change the 720 pence to pounds. Changing it to pounds, we simply move the decimal point 2 steps backward. So it gives us 7 pounds 20 what? Pence. With this, we can calculate profit. Profit is therefore equal to selling what? Price minus cost what? Price, which is equal to 7 pounds 20 pence minus 6 pounds. And this will simply give us an answer which is actually easy. When we subtract 6 from 7.20, we are going to have 1 pounds 20 pence. This is the profit that my mother made from the question we saw earlier on. Now we're going to take our second question for today, and that will be on loss. Now for our second question for today, a retailer bought 2 dozen eggs at 96 naira per dozen. Each dozen cost 96 naira, but 2 dozens were bought. So the cost price for these 2 dozens will simply be 96 times 2. 96 times 2, which will give us 192. So the total cost for the 2 dozen of eggs will be 192 pounds. Now we'll go ahead. 2 of the eggs were broken and she sold the rest at 7 pounds each. Now in 2 dozens of eggs we have 24 eggs. If 2 were broken, we will have 22 left. Now these 22, each of these 22 were sold for 7 pounds. So the selling price for the remaining 22 eggs will be 22 times 7. 22 times 7. This will give us 154 pounds. So let's go to our board as we do the calculation to determine whether he made a profit or a loss. So cost price for 2 dozens of eggs at 96 pounds each will be equal to 96 times 2, which is equal to 192 pounds. Then selling price for, remember, we have 22 eggs left. The 2 dozen was supposed to be 24, but 2 got broken during transportation, when transporting it from the market or from the poultry to the store. And since 2 are broken, they are damaged, we have 22 left. And each was sold for 7 pounds. So the selling price for 22 eggs at 7 pounds each will be equal to 7 times 22. This gives us 154 pounds. Now we already have our selling price and our cost price. Since the cost price is bigger than the selling price, that means the retailer incurred a loss. So we are going to calculate loss in this question. And as we said before now, loss is simply equal to cost price minus selling what? Price. 192 pounds minus 154 pounds. And when we subtract this 4 from 12 will give us 8. 5 from 8 will give us what? 3. So the trader incurred a loss of 38 pounds. Maths is actually easy peasy, lemon squeezy, pizza cheesy, Mr. Austin or Crusoe. See you in my next class. Do well to subscribe to my channel. Click the notification bell so that you can get notified whenever I upload a new video. Bye.